Midnight, and the hospital is already burning behind him. Pattern interrupt, cold open, close-up NAS Chamas. 4,000 shadows are climbing his 6-foot wall. He's an engineer, not a soldier, he builds bridges. Now 150 sick men look to him. Hold until dawn, or none of them survive. But dawn is 10 hours away, and counting. Open loop, poor KOS Zulu's Requiem. How does a bridge engineer end up here? Pattern interrupt, Mappa Animado do Vav. Hours earlier, he'd come only to repair a ford. His biggest worry that morning, wet boots. Then a lone rider spurred in, white with terror. 10 miles east, the main column had vanished. Isandlwana, 1,300 British dead in one afternoon. And that same army was now marching toward him. He had 150 men, many bedridden. The order came, run, or hold the station. But running meant being caught in the open, slaughtered. So the engineer made an engineer's decision, build. Walls of grain sacks and biscuit boxes. Pattern interrupt, freeze plus texto natila. 200-pound boxes stacked into a chest-high line. He linked the storehouse, the hospital, and the cattle pen. By dusk, one fragile rectangle stood, and waited. Cliffhanger. At 4:30, the far hills began to hum. British rifles cracked, the first rank fell back. Mini payoff. Want to see how 150 held? Subscribe now. CTA number 1, in character, POS payoff. But the Zulu weren't attacking, they were testing. They swept left, probing for the weakest plank. And they found it, the hospital's exposed veranda. Inside lay the men who couldn't stand. 6 defenders, a dozen patients, 1 wooden door. Chard couldn't reach them, the yard was overrun. Rifles gave way to spears at arm's length. The outer wall was lost before full dark. He pulled everyone back behind the biscuit boxes. Half the perimeter, gone in 90 minutes. And now the hospital was cut off completely. Then, above the roof, a curl of smoke. Pattern interrupt, slow push in, cliffhanger. They'd set the thatch alight to burn them out. Inside, patients woke to smoke and screaming. The only exit already swarmed with warriors. So the men trapped inside did the unthinkable. A patient raised a pickaxe against the wall. Room by room, they hacked through the mud brick, dragging the wounded through holes barely a foot wide. One man braced the door while the others dug. He held it until the flames took the room. Patient after patient squeezed toward the open yard. Across ground raked by spears and falling embers. Some made it across. Many did not. Pattern interrupt, 1, 2s de silencio plus freeze. 11 men would earn the Victoria Cross that night. More than any single action in British history. But medals meant nothing at 2 in the morning. The survivors reached the last shrinking square of defense. Payoff. A wall of grain barely chest-high remained. Comment, hold the line, if you'd have stayed. CTA number 2, in character, POS payoff. Now everything hung on one tiny redoubt. Chard raised a tower of melee sacks inside. A last island to fire down from. The Zulu came in waves, again and again. Each rush broke against the biscuit box wall. Rifles grew too hot to hold bare-handed. Barrels fouled, men fought with bayonet and fist. Ammunition fell from thousands of rounds to hundreds. Still the chanting rose out of the dark. Every man knew one breach meant the end. The stakes were simple now, the wall, or death. Then, near midnight, the attack slowly thinned. Pattern interrupt, musica cae, brazos, silencio. Not mercy, the Zulu were exhausted too. They'd marched miles and fought all evening. But Chard didn't trust the sudden quiet. He drew the perimeter tighter one final time. Men lay in the dirt, waiting for light. And then, impossibly, the drums began again. Cliffhanger. The last great assault came before first light. Shadows poured over the cattle pen wall. Chard met them at the final barricade himself. Too dark to aim, only muzzle flash guided them. For an hour the outcome balanced on nothing. Then, slowly, the eastern horizon turned gray. Pattern interrupt, Soclaria, Plano Aberto. And the firing from the hills fell silent. As light spread, the warriors simply melted away. Payoff. They carried their wounded back over the river. But why retreat, with the fort nearly theirs? Exhausted,